The ViVO V30 series that came out earlier this year marked the first time Vivo brought its Zeiss partnership to the more affordable V series. The idea was to make Zeiss-powered cameras more accessible to the masses. And the V30 Pro did the camera bit well indeed, with our review calling the V30 Pro a great choice for camera enthusiasts. But it wasn't a perfect phone as it lacked stereo speakers and only offered an IP54 rating. 5 months later, the ViVO V40 Pro is here to fill those gaps, and in doing so, get closer to becoming that perfect mid-range phone. While the ViVO V40 Pro comes just a few months after the V30 Pro, it brings several improvements and upgrades that justify its existence. The two areas where the V30 Pro felt lacking have been fixed in the successor: stereo speakers and better IP rating. The ViVO V40 Pro also gets a bigger battery, some good Zeiss-backed cameras, and an impressive Dimensity 9200 Plus chipset. But these upgrades also mean a higher starting price of Rs. 49,999. Design has been a key aspect for Vivo no matter the series, but the company does tend to push things with the V series in particular. The V40 Pro is the slimmest phone with a 5,500 mAh battery measuring 7.58 mm in thickness. It is also one of the lightest phones with a 5,500 mAh battery at 192 grams. Both the front and back glass panels are curved at the edges, while the frame is rounded as well, giving a good in-hand feel without feeling sharp or heavy. The glossy back of the Ganges blue variant that we received enables a good grip, but I wasn't a fan of the wavy pattern. The titanium gray variant looks cleaner and might be better suited for those looking for a subdued yet classy look. The most noticeable design change is the shape of the rear camera module. While the V30 Pro went with a square-ish look, the V40 Pro's camera module is more circular. Vivo calls it the Infinity Eye camera module design, and it's sort of a pendulum shape with two cameras housed in the top circular module and a third camera and Aura LED ring in the bottom one. Interestingly, the Aura ring is much smaller compared to the large square-shaped enclosing on the V30 Pro. However, Vivo claims the V40 Pro's Aura light is 33% brighter. When we reviewed the V30 Pro, two aspects disappointed us: no stereo speakers and only an IP54 rating. Well, it looks like Vivo heard us because the V40 Pro has improved on both. It gets stereo speakers and a much better IP rating, IP68 dust and water resistance. Apart from bumping up the peak brightness, the display on the ViVO V40 Pro is more or less similar to the one on its predecessor. It's a 6.78-inch FHD+, 2800 by 1260 AMOLED display with 120Hz refresh rate. The peak brightness support goes up to 4500 nits, up from 2800 nits. Suffice it to say that the screen gets plenty bright outdoors and while watching HDR content on supported platforms like Netflix. Overall, it's an attractive display with good viewing angles and colors. Much like the V30 Pro, the V40 Pro also uses a sheet of shot alpha glass to protect the display. The bezels around the screen are quite thin, offering what is probably the highest screen-to-body ratio in this segment at 93%. Overall, the V40 Pro offers a tall and wide display for consuming content, excellent brightness and viewing angles outdoors, and a light yet sturdy build quality for a good in-hand feel. The V30 Pro had a terrific camera system, so Vivo didn't have to change things too much on the V40 Pro. You get a 50-megapixel primary camera that uses Sony's IMX921 sensor with optical image stabilization, a 50-megapixel portrait, Sony IMX816 lens with support for 2x optical zoom and 50x digital zoom, a 50-megapixel wide-angle lens, and a 50-megapixel selfie camera, for a total of 4 50-megapixel cameras, all backed by Zeiss. Vivo brought its partnership with Zeiss to the V series first with the V30 Pro, and now to the V40 and V40 Pro, making it more accessible to the masses and giving the Leica-backed Xiaomi 14 Civi a run for its money. The Zeiss partnership enables the ViVO V40 series to offer features like multifocal portrait photography, which essentially lets you conveniently capture portraits and different focal lengths: 24mm, 35mm, 50mm, 85mm, and 100mm. Then you have the Zeiss portrait styles, such as Biotar, B-Speed, Sonar, planar, distagon, cine-flare, and cinematic that offer unique background blur styles to suit your taste. These are nice features to have, especially if you like to take a lot of portraits. The V40 Pro's cameras are excellent in most conditions. In daylight conditions, the ViVO V40 Pro captures pleasing shots that are very social media ready. The camera tends to boost colors like the reds and greens in the comparison shot below, whereas the Xiaomi 14 Civi goes for more natural-looking colors. The ViVO V40 Pro is terrific for portrait shots, thanks to the many Zeiss multifocal options and bokeh styles to play around with. The quality of portraits is top-notch, as you can see in the comparison shot below with the Xiaomi 14 Civi's portrait mode. While the Xiaomi 14 Civi does a good job of offering a natural background blur, the color of the shirt, skin tone, and sharpness are better on the ViVO V40 Pro. The Aura ring light is handy when capturing portraits in low light conditions or in situations where artificial light can seem overpowering. Both the ViVO V40 Pro and Xiaomi 14 Civi perform similarly in low light conditions in that they both do a pretty good job. The Xiaomi 14 Civi leans towards a warmer tone, while the ViVO V40 Pro takes a cooler photo. We found that the ViVO V40 Pro does a slightly better job at sharpness, as it was able to capture the Hullydrum text clearer, and it also captures the reds and greens more naturally. Next, we compared the 50 megapixel selfie camera of the ViVO V40 Pro with the 32 megapixel front camera of the Realme GT6. Surprisingly, the Realme GT6's selfie looked as sharp as what we got on the ViVO V40 Pro, despite using a lower resolution sensor. We also prefer the skin tones captured by the Realme GT6 compared to the slightly brighter and more saturated colors captured by the ViVO phone. The ViVO V40 Pro can also capture macro photos, but you will need to tap the super macro flower icon above the viewfinder to enable macro photography. The camera does not automatically switch to macro mode when taking close-up shots. The MediaTek Dimensity 9200 Plus chipset powering the ViVO V40 Pro was announced last year as a more powerful version of the older Dimensity 9200 SoC. Interestingly, the V40 Pro is the first model to launch with this year-old chipset in India. It offers a 10% CPU and GPU improvement over its predecessor. The octa-core chip offers a peak clock speed of 3.35 GHz, and that's enough power to make the ViVO V40 Pro one of the fastest phones in this segment, outscoring the likes of the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 powered Realme GT6 in the sub-50,000 segment. In the Antutu benchmark test, the V40 Pro's Dimensity 9200 Plus outscored the Realme GT6 and Xiaomi 14 Civi, both of which are powered by the Snapdragon 8's Gen 3. The score is also significantly higher than the Dimensity 8200 powered ViVO V30 Pro, which recorded 948,361 on Antutu. In the Geekbench test, the ViVO V40 Pro was lower than its rival in the single-core test, but managed to outscore the other in the multi-core test, suggesting that the ViVO phone can handle complex tasks better. Even in our burnout CPU throttle test, the ViVO V40 Pro managed to perform slightly better at performance throttling compared to the Realme and Xiaomi phones, though all three devices dropped down to around 40% of their peak performance under stress. Based on these benchmark tests, the Dimensity 9200 Plus seems to be a better chipset overall compared to the Snapdragon 8's Gen 3. You can read our in-depth performance comparison of the ViVO V40 Pro with the Realme GT6 and Xiaomi 14 Civi here. Talking about real-world usage, the ViVO V40 Pro felt extremely smooth. Animations are fluid, and I did not face any noticeable lag while switching apps or browsing through them. Coming to the software side of things, the ViVO V40 Pro runs on Android 14 with FunTouch OS 14 on top. It comes with its fair share of preloaded apps. 50 OS might take a while to get used to for people not familiar with the OS. Swiping down from the top edge brings up the control center and notification panel. You can customize the lock screen clock style and themes based on material embroidered. Have a mini window pop up for quick replies and access if you're in another app, and more. ViVO is promising 3 years of major OS updates and 4 years of security patches with the ViVO V40 Pro. which is similar to what most other phones in this price range offer, including the Realme GT6 and Xiaomi 14 Civi. Now, in a time where most phones, especially high-end ones, tout AI features for various day-to-day use cases like summarizing a page, prompt-based image generator, native Gemini AI assistant, and so on, the ViVO V40 Pro is surprisingly light on these. You do get a few AI features for the camera, but nothing beyond that. ViVO has bumped the battery capacity of the ViVO V40 Pro to 5,500 mAh from 5,000 in the V30 Pro. This 500 mAh increase is welcome, as it should mean improved battery life in day-to-day usage. You can now comfortably go through over a full day of usage on a single charge and still have enough in the tank by the end of the night. In our PC Mark battery test, the ViVO V40 Pro managed to last 14 hours and 36 minutes from 100 to 20% on 80% brightness. This is among the best in the sub-Rs 50,000 segment, with only the Realme GT6T performing marginally better at 14 hours and 45 minutes. A quick top-up in the morning before leaving for work is enough to take you through a full day. The phone supports 80 watts charging much like its predecessor and can charge the device from 20 to 100% in about 37 minutes, and it takes exactly 50 minutes to charge from 1 to 100%. Starting at Rs 49,999, the ViVO V40 Pro is priced a few notches higher than its predecessor. But this price hike is justified with some meaningful upgrades, including the addition of stereo speakers and a much better IP rating. The Dimensity 9200 Plus chipset is the dark horse that surprised us with its performance, outscoring Snapdragon 8's Gen 3 phones like the Realme GT6 and Xiaomi 14 Civi in benchmarks. The V40 Pro's pricing could deter potential buyers, especially when you have phones like the Realme GT6 and Xiaomi 14 Civi available at a cheaper price point. That said, the ViVO V40 Pro offers a complete package that includes a big and bright display, sturdy and light design, impressive performance, terrific Zeiss-backed cameras, and a dependable battery life. It is truly a worthy successor to the V30 Pro.